Okay, cool. Let me get rid of a bunch of that stuff. And I want to go through the handout first. Did everybody get the handout? I'm assuming. So this is a follow-up to Nita Engle, tribute to Nita Engle. This is part 2 because she couldn't put everything. I couldn't put everything into one workshop. It'd be ridiculous. I still highly recommend her book, which I'll show you under the camera, just in case you haven't got it or haven't heard me yak about it yet. And for those of you who are new, I took 3. She's the one that taught me how to paint transparent watercolor. And we have kind of the same background. She was an art director in Chicago. I was an art director in Chicago. We did not know each other then. It took me another 10 years to find her. Anyway, I took 3 workshops from her, including most of them were, including one that was in her hometown in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, in a little mining town called Nagani. Anyway, it was a very cool country up there. So we are going to be doing 3 things today. We're going to spend the most time on the water resist, and then we're going to apply some stamping to that. And then we're going to do an additional thing on the using the oiler boiler or syringe bottles, which we didn't get to last time. And that's going to be, it's more than just painting the ocean, or at least it is for me. There's your materials list. You should have had this from the last time if you took the first workshop. Oiler boilers, scrap mat board, X-Acto knife, that's for stamping, and a spray bottle, not a mister. So that's important. Here's a piece of reference that we'll probably paint today. So we've got a smattering of wildflowers in here. We've got some rocks, we've got some trees, we've got some mountains. These are nice diagonals opposing each other. There's a diagonal, there's a diagonal. And then we got some verticals for the trees. And it's going to take a little while to get the knack of doing this. So one of my things, as you all know, is failure is your friend. Failure is just feedback. I love to fail because I learned something. So I'm hoping all of you masters of the universe fail today because you'll learn something. Here's another wildflower shot. You can pick and choose. You can do both if you want. Here's an example of stamping that I used for holiday cards. You could do these very quickly, very easily. And here's an interesting thing that happens with stamping here's an interesting thing that happens with stamping. If you stamp this on dry paper, that's what it looks like. If you stamp it on wet paper, that's what it looks like. It's a blob. But if you stamp it on damp paper, it becomes negative. So the paper has to be half dry. And then it almost looks like a negative painting, Linda Kemp, for example. Then we will, I wanted to show you these close up, and it works better depending on your spray bottle. It might work better, and we'll do a trial sample of this. So in essence, what I'm doing is I'm spattering paint, and then I'm painting with a spray bottle. This is all white paper. Everything you see here is white paper. And what I see so often is that people start making a wallpaper. Here's a flower, 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 and they all are outlined. I need you to figure out a cluster of flowers. There's a cluster, there's a cluster, there's a cluster, there's a cluster, here's a cluster. And you can just paint some real flowers up in the front with gouache, and it makes all the rest of them look real, depending on what type of flower you want to paint. Here was a demo from class, and here's some stamping back here, way in the background. This is some stamping, so we can include that, and the rest of it speaks for itself. Here's another example of the water resist. This is some trees that I did with the syringe bottle. I actually drew the tree and then I sprayed it. And here's, I think that's it for the handout. So I'll put that away. Anybody have any questions? Questions? Not yet? Okay. Here's another example. I want to go to cluster and I'll show you what's in there. So here's my cluster folder. Here's the gallery. Here's something we're going to be doing at lunch. So here's all the same things plus more. There's a different one. Here's another one. So you could take that one. I'm just looking at these for design. There's a big triangle. There's another one. That's a diagonal. It can be any time. You don't have to copy this. You can take what it gives you. There's another one. So I'd highly recommend that you, there's another one, that you try these. Here is the Nita Engle one from her book. This is where she does the chapter on water resist, and that's how this foreground was done. These mountains were masked, which we don't have to do. We don't have to worry about that. And I think that this tree is stamped, I think. Anyway, that's the Nita Engle version. Here was a quick demo in class, just with a trail going off into the distance. There's an example of stamping. There's one of the things that's in the reference. It's also in this cluster folder. There's a tree, there's a tree, there's the stamping. See, there's a close-up of what I was talking about. So instead of a bunch of individual flowers, I'm doing clusters of flowers. They're much more believable that way. Once we start this, you'll figure it out. Here's an up and extra that I wanted to show you that I'm sure most of you have tried and given up or whatever. Anyway, it's blowing paint. Anyway, so you do the same thing. You make a big puddle, and here I made a big puddle, and I just went down close to it, and I blew on it, and so it painted itself. It painted all this stuff. I added another color and blew on it again, and you can do this with a straw or with your mouth or however you want. And then I went back in with my palette knife, painted a few lines, added a pot or a wall. And this one will do also. This one is just to paint a shape. And then we're going to stamp, only we're going to stamp with plastic, a piece of crumpled up plastic. So, and put it in a pot. And this is the other tree that I just did. I just used a different color. And you can go back. That's my fall tree. Anyway, you can go back and you can paint on top of it. This is just watercolor. It's nothing special. But it painted itself. I just drew some lines on here and then it painted itself. And that's for later. And then I wanted to show you this. This was also done with the oiler boilers. If you all remember last time we painted the ocean, that was from this workshop. Let's see. Yeah, that was from this workshop. Oh, good. Monica, very nice. Look at that. That was from the last workshop. Anyway, this was all of this. This is the one I was talking about besides the ocean, which was the back and forth and spray, run it off to the side, whatever. I tried mountains, and here's the kind of progression on the mountains. I drew them. There's my Euler boiler lines. Here I'm painting the sky. I turn it upside down to run it off. I also made a YouTube video out of this, which I can send you in the post workshop if you want. So that was the another use for Euler boilers, which is this guy. Whoops. Somebody here is Mammoth Mountain nut. So I painted that. So, and it was, I thought it was pretty effective. So you can control this quite well after you get used to it. This was done with salt. You can still see some of the lines in here, which I like. So I did the same thing with the foreground, and squirted some lines and then ran it off horizontally and let some of it seep in, added some detail, and you're done. So anyway, you can do quite a bit with the Euler boilers. Okay. I'm going to stop the share for a second. So do we have any questions? I'm going to be working 9x12, which will fit under the camera, and it's big enough to make this stuff come off. So if you're doing a painting and you want to add, subtract to this using these techniques, you'll have a bunch of new techniques to use. So even Steve, who paints city kind of, am I being correct? City kind of impressionistic, kind of more workplace kind of stuff. Steve, what are you painting? What style are you painting now?
I'm not painting much.
Well, good. I hope this inspires you to paint something.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, I'm going to go back and stop the share. I'm going to go to the camera and show you some examples of this. And here we go. So there's my board, and I think some of you have painted this. I don't think all of you have painted this. I know you have, and I know you have. And tell me how many have painted this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you all have. So we did that the first workshop. Okay, well, we might do that again because it doesn't take very long.
That's okay.
And I want you to have it. This is watercolor paper, and this is just torn out with a metal ruler, so it gets kind of a deckled edge. And it's just spray glued, and there's my card to somebody special because it's an original piece of art. Here's the tree. Here's a tree. Here's another tree, and here's another tree. So you can see that they're all different. They all have their own characteristics, so don't try to control it. This is some of the stamping that we did. Here's the example that I gave you. You can do it in any color. You can actually, when you make the stamp, which looks like this, if you can see that, you can actually put different. You can actually put a different color on top and a different color on the bottom, and do whatever you want. This is the blot off of the stamp.
Sorry.
And this is what I call I called it a smooge, but it's really a monoprint. So you can do rocks. It's a nice texture to have in your toolkit. This was the blow. After I put down some paint, and this was the stamp with I just used plastic that came with, I don't know, some art supply I had to have. So there's that. Here's this guy. So that was, done. Here's the one. I can't find the, photo reference on that, but it doesn't make any difference.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Anyway,
like that.
and this one is just was a
That's
very
good,
quick sample of trying to do this first to learn the process and then applying it to this. So it's a little bit bigger. So I think you all have seen that one. So I'll pass all this stuff around.
Hey, Joe,
Yes,
I'm new to the stamping thing. Are you gonna demo that for us?
of course.
So I can't even add.
Yeah, you'll make your own, you'll be making your own stamps. You can make
Okay.
a stamp. It's all, part of it is in her book. She's doing landscape stamps, but you could do stars, you could do whatever.
Okay,
You don't have to do that, except, I love to send this, back to all my friends back in the snow country. So, but here it's been snowing. So. Anyway, so the big deal about this is the stamping. So let me ask you guys out in Zoom land, just shout out. Have you done this exercise?
no,
Yes? No?
No.
no,
Okay, then I'm gonna do
Yes.
it because it only takes a few minutes.
Are we following along with you?
You can if you want to. If you did not do the
Because I
stamp,
didn't.
if you did not do that exercise, you don't have to.
Okay, because I.
Yeah, you don't have to. So there's my pad. And I'm just gonna split this off into two into quarters. So there's that. And there's that.
What did you just do?
I just,
Make full quarter. Okay.
yes. That's all I did.
Oh.
I think you can
Words.
see
Okay.
that. I think you can see that. Yeah, I just did that. So I'll give everybody a minute. I'll be right back. Gonna warm up my coffee.
Tape down, or could it just be?
No, you can just you don't have to tape it. There's no background.
Okay.
And you don't have to do a tree.
No.
Gary Tucker did a tree. You don't have to do a tree, but everybody can do it. Everybody knows what that looks like. So. This is just a nice little thing to have for reference. And the refresher in this one is that it is random wet. It's the best one, I think. And not so many people do that.
In a bucket of, right.
I forget. Oh, right here, yeah.
All right.
Skip it.
Okay. I just, that's often the only thing I am. This is amazing. But, jellyfish, yeah.
It's really slow. Super slow.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's all the brides after COVID, we had a really busy couple of years. And this year, I'm guessing it's the economy. I don't know. But very, very.
You want some?
My daughter's gone right on. Good. Nice, yes.
That's very good now.
It's a very expensive. It's got ridiculous. Yeah, just ridiculous. I'm having a wedding reception in my backyard for my daughter who got married 3 years ago during all the lockdowns. So, yeah, it's just slow.
I went through his building and his enjoying his hours.
Uh-huh.
And I have no idea.
Yeah, no, there's a
It
beautiful
was a,
ranch there, Hummingbird Ranch.
oh no, that's not, this is a much, much smaller ranch down by Royal High School in that area. It's a veterinarian, and he used to have horses.
Mhm.
So he turned his stalls into like little cottages and they live there. So they're there while you're there.
I said I was gonna run to the bathroom.
Well, go ahead.
You have to-
Oh, no, go ahead. She's making coffee out of the bathroom. Okay, the first one I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna label these,
Yeah. It's crazy.
because this is gonna be wet on dry.
And it's huge.
Mhm.
This is gonna be wet on wet and wet on damp. This is gonna be spot or random wet. This is the one that has the magic to it, I think. And this is dry on dry, which also has some magic to it. So there you go. You can label those now, or you can do it later.
What kind of brush are you using?
You can use any kind of brush you want, whatever your favorite brush is. If it's a round, if it's square.
I like them all.
You like them all.
I do.
And please, out there, and let me know here, and everybody, let me know if I'm in frame or if I go wander out of frame. Because I'm looking at the board, I'm not looking up here.
Uh-huh.
So just hit me over the head or throw something at me or holler.
Yeah, I got a dagger. I can try a dagger. That makes good trees.
So I'm going to use the same brush. I'm just using this size brush. I'm not trying to do anything special. And I'm going to mix up some, just one color. I'm going to use Payne's Gray. I'm going to mix a puddle of Payne's Gray over here.
I stand when I paint. Do you want me to move all the way over here?
Just so I have it handy and ready to go.
I stand while I paint too.
And I'm just going to paint what I think a pine tree looks like. It's an easy symbol. So I usually just do that. And then I start going back and forth like that. And the branches get bigger at the bottom, and there's a little dry brush, and here's a trunk, and here's a shadow. So there's my one little pine tree. And that's the wet on dry.
Oh, you did the wet on dry first?
Yes. That's just wet paint on dry. That's how we all usually paint. And I'm going to paint this whole rectangle in the top right with clear water. So this is going to be a wet on wet. And this, you've all painted this before. You're all experienced painters. So this is not anything earth shaking. It's just nice as a refresher and a reminder. I'm going to give that one a couple of minutes to settle. I'm also going to have a paper towel in my hand. I usually try to have that so I can blot the brush. I still have paint on that brush, but I'm taking some of the moisture out of it. And this is, I know this is damp. This looks shiny right here. So I'll just paint, I should let it wait a couple more minutes, but I'll just go ahead and see how it goes. So there's a tree. There's a smaller tree. And now I'm gonna, see how that's fuzzing out. That's the usual wet and wet. And now I am going to wait another couple minutes till I can see the sheen is going off the paper. That was glossy wet, and now there's a sheen on it. Oh, look at that. Isn't that cool? Wow, look at that painting itself. That's what watercolor is so cool.
This is wet on wet, right?
And this is going to be a larger tree in front of that. And that's still too wet. I want it to be a little drier than that. Because I want it to look, I want this tree to be in front of that tree. And this is wet on damp, which we mostly forget about, wet on damp. It's where most of the, I think it's, you'll hear a lot of opinions that it's the dangerous time to paint, but it's also the most creative time to paint. So there's my tree in the front. So they're both going to have soft edges. And by the way, I think this one is dry now, or pretty dry, so I can go back with the same paint. And I'm saying that the light is coming from here. If you could see that, yes. And so I'm going to paint a little darker on the right side of this tree to give it some form. It's got a little bit, two different values there, so it's got a little bit more form to it. This next one is really pretty cool. You don't know what you're going to get, so again, it's failure is your friend. I love saying that.
Wabi sabi.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to wet this, but I'm only going to half wet it. That means half this rectangle is going to be dry and half of it's going to be wet, and I'm going to do it randomly. So I don't really know where the water is going to go. I don't really know what happens until I put paint on here, and I'm going to give that a couple minutes to settle. I really don't know where it's going to bloom. It's an example of that. And where it's going to be hard edged. So it gives a lot more interest, magic, I'll call it, to whatever you're painting, especially skies. You can paint this beautifully doing skies. So part of that is going to be on dry. I don't know if I can see it on dry. Yeah, there's some dry right there. And part of that is going to be on wet. And that's what this trunk was. It's on wet, looks like the top of it, so I can go back and do that. And that's got a lot more, to me, magic
What's
to
that one
it.
called? What's that one called again, Joe?
It's a random wet or spot wet.
Okay.
And while this is still damp, I can go back with my palette knife and I can actually sculpt out a few branches in there. I can do the same thing here. I could do the same thing here. Gives a little more texture to it. little more interest to it. So I love all this little sparkly stuff that's happening. And it just makes it much more interesting. Shadow, shadow. And the last one, you can just keep your brush full of the paint. I'm blotting it off, blotting my paint off on my towel. And this is gonna be dry on dry. So I'm just hitting the tops of the paper, the bumps on top of this cold press paper, and you can see that it's got a texture to it. And that in conjunction with any of these other techniques, you can combine these. I can combine a little dry brush here if I want toward the edges. So that's got a different look to it. Anyway, so there's 4 different. That's the advantage of watercolor for me. The big, it gives me all this magic that happens that I didn't do it because I just painted the same thing 4 times, but they all look different, right? It's pretty cool. They all have a different flavor to them. So depending on the size of it, where it's placed in the scene, and the distance, mid, foreground, you can do quite a bit. Here's what they are. Oh, I forgot my coffee.
I can smell it. It smells good.
Hey. Okay, I think that's a good warm up. And don't forget to put where your light's coming from. Oh, I already passed this. Okay, cool. Okay, I am going to tape. I am going to tape this guy off. I usually like to tape these off because you never know. Then I've got a nice clean border that can stand alone, or you can put a mat on it, but this is Nita Engle, Nita Engle's hand with her valued spray bottle. And here she's talking about the water resist.
Are we gonna do one of the reference paintings now with this or what?
We're going to learn how to do it right now. And if that turns into a painting, then you can certainly use that. So all I'm really going to do is paint. I'm going to paint I'm just going to experiment. I'm going to paint the bottom half of this, and I will show you in the cluster folder, which you should all have had an invitation to, is if we try these this size, then I think we're going to be better off just to see what happens. What I'm talking about when I say clusters. So we don't have to get into this one yet. We don't have to get into these. Or it's not the one I was looking for. This. We don't have to get into that yet. So if we just learn how to do one of these larger ones like this, or even this, you're going to be way ahead of the game. If you like to do portraits, this is great for backgrounds. If you like to do parks in the city, this is great. You could even do any kind of foliage with this, any kind of random pattern you want. And so what she starts with is spatter, and then she sprinkles. And you can see some of the water resist. She's directing the paint here. But with the water resist, and that's what she calls it, is water resist. That's how she got all these delicate flowers down below. And there's the mountain, and there's a farm. And it's preserving white without masking. Yay! That's the big deal here. See this part right here? Once you start doing this, this is kind of like negative painting.
Joe, I think you have the picture that you're talking about on our screen.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yes, thank you. So let me put that away. So here's what she's talking about. For most of you, I don't know about you, but in my experience, a lot of people have had trouble negative painting because they can't see it. They can see the stem when they're making stems or limbs or whatever, or leaves. But when they're painting around it, they can't see the negative part. How do I paint the holes in the trees instead of, you can do that with mask, but I highly suggest that you draw that first. And then you have a guide, and then one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. This is kind of like negative painting in a way. Not technically, not as far as the technique, but seeing stuff. Like when she starts sprinkling water on here, see that little group right here? See those flowers? The flowers are going to start appearing. And there's another group right here. And I can see that, but I can understand that you can't see that right away, but you will.
That's book is it?
I'm sorry?
What page in the book is it?
69.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Anyway, so that's that, and you do not need gravity for this. So all I'm really going to do, and I don't even have to clean my water because I'm just demoing. I will make this tray right here. I'm just going to mix in some, I'm going to use some alizarin crimson. I'm going to make a puddle of that. And I want it to be enough paint because I'm going to add water to it. But I do not want it, I want it to be enough so it'll release. So it's kind of cream, if you guys remember the watercolor clock. So I've got a puddle of paint there, and I want to make sure it releases. So I'm just going to start spattering. And I'm being random. I'm not trying to, oh no, I dropped my brush, blah, blah, blah. So now I'm gonna use a different color. I'm gonna use orange. Just something different than that. Put some orange there, put a little bit here, put some more there. So you can see that I have a random pattern. I'm not making wallpaper. So I am ready to create. I have my I call it my spray bottle, but I'm really what I really want to do with this is spit or sprinkle. My sprinkle bottle. Okay. And I can see what's happening here. I can see some things that are going on. So I'm going to make sure I'm just sprinkling. And I'm going to create flowers. I'm just sprinkling. I'm almost doing a cluster of flowers right here. Can you see that?
You have any extra bottle?
Do I have an extra bottle? I have this, but it's not a spray bottle. Hang on, and I'll
Yes,
let you use this one. See how I'm just going around, and here, right there, that's going to be a flower. Because I've decided that's going to be a flower.
You can use this one. It's, just use it close up. I
And
have
I'm
one.
just
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just
Then-
spitting water on here just to see what happens. I'm going to let that cluster of flowers go off into the distance. There's another flower that just happened right here. I got a group of flowers down here at the bottom. I can pick this up and kind of spray it off a little bit if I want to. Can you see the flowers start to happen in there?
Yeah.
I'm going to make this a little group of flowers over here.
You need bigger drops.
Something that's. Oh. It takes it.
That's kind of interesting. I'm going to make another group here. And I'm going to run that off. So I'm getting a nice group of flowers here. I'm going to actually let some of that go up into the sky.
I'm using my fingers too.
So I've got a nice clump of flowers, I think. Well, I've got big flowers. I could make that into a big flower. I could make this whole thing into big flowers now if I wanted to. Anyway, I've got kind of an interesting pattern going on here. And this is where you have to, if you paint with watercolor, you all know that you can't control it. That's, to me, is the good news. I can't control it. Gonna let that settle for a few minutes. Can you see how the flowers appeared? Yes,
Yes.
Yep.
yes, say yes.
Yep.
The
Cool.
flowers are the white between it?
These are the flowers. There's a flower, there's a flower, here's a flower there. That makes a cluster. There's a flower down here. I could make one there. I could make one here, make one here. I could make darker flowers up here if I wanted to. We'll just play. We'll just play. So there's a. Now, in fact, I could just spatter some up here to make some Look at those bloom all by themselves. Pretty cool. Look at that. That's pretty cool. Depending on how much of a control freak you are. Oh no, I just called you all a freak. A control freak you are, you can, by the way, if you like what's happening, then just set it flat. You don't have to let it run around. So that's going to have to settle. That's soppy wet. But I dare say that if I went back and I started putting some, I'll make some yellow dots. There's a flower. Here's a flower. I could make this into a flower. There. This is a hidden flower. There's a flower. Here's a flower. There's a flower. See, it starts looking like flowers. Or whatever you want. And I have to kind of pay attention to this because I want to see the moisture of the paper. This is way too wet right here. I'm going to blot a little bit off here. And now for that field, or where the flowers are growing. All the white you see on here is dry paper. This really would make beautiful abstract paintings and still suggest something. So I'm gonna start painting around some of these with my green. There's a nice flower right there.
Are you using a Viridian?
I'm sorry,
Are you using, what color are you using?
a contaminated palette. I just
Okay.
happen to have blue and green on here. It doesn't make any difference as long as it's kind of green. Some leaves. Some that's too wet to do anything with up here, but you don't have to be that careful. A lot of this is just going to dissipate. I want to strengthen these flowers up here. I want to strengthen these flowers. I'm mixing the blue and the green together. I want this to be darker under here. Some of this peek through happening. See, to me, it's pretty amazing that this stuff just starts painting itself. You know, I'm just trying to design as I'm going through here.
That's still pretty wet.
Yeah, it's still pretty wet. I'm just taking advantage of that in a way. I'm just tickling these edges to make these smaller flowers happen. All this paint right here didn't get any water on it, but it's starting to look like flowers.
Yeah.
And I can take this. Start to make it look like something. I've got a nice little group of flowers started here, I think. I have to wait for this to dry a little bit, so don't try to do this too fast. I'll give you time. I see, I want to define this little flower from this one next to it, so I can just touch it. And you can do this later. You don't have to do this now. You can do it later because see how light all this paint is getting now? It needs to settle some more. I need make that darker. There are going to be some darks in here. I want that to be darker. Still a lot of water on here, so I'm gonna give it a rest as soon as I stop putzing. That'll bring this flower out just by making that darker around it. I'm gonna make put a little dark up here just to fill it. It's kind of cool. Look what happened up here when I was talking.
What's there?
Anyway, I'm just gonna let that settle and give you time to play. So I think this was a good example of we're painting this a little bit bigger. Before we get into the smaller paintings, but I think that works pretty well, actually. I lucked out. I got still have big blobs of water. All these dots right here are soppy wet, so I can't do much.
Joe, can you tell me where the restroom is? I forget.
Right across.
No, it's right out the door, right across.
Okay. This is probably a good time to go. Thank you. Can I try your work bottle?
Oh, yes. My sprinkle bottle.
So. Do I have enough splatters? I'm really.
I can't, there's no
Right or wrong?
there's no right or wrong. It's just you just looking at it and you take advantage of what the watercolor is going to give you. I'm going to give this a few more minutes. So just have fun. If you have to get out another sheet of paper, get out another sheet of paper. Hey, nice. Look at that. You already got your,
These are not
you've already
flowers.
got your painting
They are
done.
sea anemones.
Huh?
I said, these are sea anemones.
Sea anemones. Yeah, that's a great thing. You could use this technique for. Nice. Nice. Cool. Look at that now. Now, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, let those connect to each other.
Okay, overlap. and connect.
Yeah,
How am I gonna do that?
just blot some and put some, just lift a little bit, but try to make clusters. Oh, you're gonna have fun with this with you got plenty of reference.
Yes, I do.
She's a flower designer.
Painter first. And then
Now, what I just did is I got pretty close, and I'm gonna put this up here and let it dry. I got pretty close to this, and I made sure that my bottle was spraying, because if you lay it flat, it's gonna run out of water because the tube.
Did you
So I have
feel
to
like
make
you
sure
were
that it's
in
sprinkling.
elementary school again?
And now I'm just tapping on the thing. So I'm painting with this. I'm designing, oh, that kind of looks like a flower. That kind of looks like a flower. So you can kind of see that,
Yeah, we have.
I don't know if you can
If
see.
you've got it, Bobby, it looks great. Look at that, it looks so good.
See, I'm just trying to make, I'm looking at design. I told you guys before, I'm a designer, not a painter. So I'm looking at the design of this group. And I have a cluster here, I have a main cluster here, I have a little offshoot, little balance. But overall, I think that that shape works pretty well. And I could put if I want to use gouache on this, I can use gouache on it later on to just button it up. I could put a planter base right here, and that could be in my garden. I could put a trellis back there. I'm giving you too many ideas. You've got a nice little group. You've got flowers, you've got a bunch of flowers, you've got flowers. So when you start with your green, with your nice complement to this red is green, is a kind of a dirty green, neutral green. It wants to start, now you're going to start outlining or designing your flowers. You know, you did that with a little paint, but at the bottom you want to start giving it a little more depth. So I'm just going around it with a greener kind of color. And I'm further refining the shape of those flowers. So you've got a nice big cluster right here.
Trying to
Yeah,
see
yours
what
looks
these guys are doing.
It's fun.
See, it's just a difference in value now. Now I've got color on there, and now it's going to be a difference in value.
If you didn't have a dirty palette and you wanted to mix a dark shadowy green, what would you use?
I had some green on this side. I had some blues and greens on this side. I just dipped into the red, the complement of the
But
green.
if you didn't, if you were starting fresh and you were grabbing some tubes of paint, what ones would you choose?
Viridian is the only green that I have. Viridian and alizarin. I'd start there. Those are more neutral. They're not quite as bright as the red or sap green.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you're kind of doing two things here. You're doing the water resist, and that's going to expose shapes that might look like flowers. And then you're going to be doing some negative painting, bringing those shapes out. Just experiment. Do not judge yet. You can judge later.
What are you referring to as water resist in this context?
Well, that's an interesting question. That's what she calls it, as a water resist. It's instead of masking, I am using water to create all this basically outside. And I'm using the paper as the resist because I didn't have to mask it.
Or frisk it.
Or frisk it. Yeah. Isn't that what I said? What did I say? Oh, masking
That's
fluid.
what brisket is.
Yeah.
I know.
So what I'm doing is, it's almost like that random wet that we painted that tree in.
Uh-huh.
Only this time I'm playing God. I'm the one that went around here and said, oh, that kind of looks like shape, kind of looks like a flower. So then I start, after the spatter, I start going around this creating shapes. That's a good question, Steve, because I pondered that myself. In fact, maybe I should actually read the book.
Aren't you supposed to just look at the pictures?
Well, that's me. That's why I'm not a lawyer. I don't read, I look at pictures.
So I have a question. If I'm doing plein air painting,
Uh-huh.
I know, yeah, I know that this would probably be great as you got some Nina pictures. Uh, how, how long a time? I mean, I don't really know how to judge the time for spattering and stuff. It draws pretty quick outside.
Plein air painting is no different than studio painting, unless you're sitting in the sun. The best places to plein air paint are the shade, of course,
Yeah, yeah,
not the sun. It's going to depend. It's going to dry a little faster depending on the wind. You just have to look at it. Look at what the paper is telling you how wet it is. Is it glossy? Is it have a sheen? Is it matte? And if it's matte, I'll bet you that it's still wet. So put your fingers on the
paper,
paper.
yeah.
If it's cold, if it's cool, it's still wet, still damp. There's 4 kinds of moisture. Well, there's infinite number, but the 4 kinds are wet, moist, damp, and dry.
Okay,
So all of these things happen. I painted this plein air-ish. I painted this alla prima, basically.
hmm,
Kind of, sort of. I just kept painting. And
okay,
look at the top of this compared to the bottom of it.
yeah,
And that's great because those painted themselves, that upper left-hand corner, they just painted themselves and they framed those flowers and they picked up that color, which I don't want all by itself. So here's a here's a medium, here's a small, here's a large, and here's the brighter color mixed in with it. It has a energy, and so this was painted on moist, and this was painted on damp because I can palette knife it, and of course some of this obviously was painted wet on dry because I'm coming up to the edge. There's a hard edge in all of these. So it just depends on what it's, you know, sometimes the magic works and sometimes it doesn't.
yeah. You were using a flat, weren't you on that, a flat brush?
I used a flat brush, but I'm just I used a spatter brush. Most of that was painted with the spray bottle or sprinkle bottle.
Okay. I think my spray was too big.
But I have a tendency to use flat brushes as opposed to round brushes. It really
Yeah.
doesn't make a lot of difference.
Yeah, because I got a different shape on mine. I should have been using a round.
Yeah.
Have you tried a toothbrush?
Well, I have used toothbrush for painting Starry, Starry Night, Starry, Starry Sky. And you can, but for this exercise, a toothbrush gives a far too fine a pattern. You want bigger drops for this one. The next one we do when we actually do a painting that you want to pick of a scene, then there'll be smaller flowers, but I wanted you to see how this worked. And I think it's easier if you see this So if you're in a design quandary now, then you have to start using values. If you'll notice that I have a very light value, the paper, and then I have some mid-tone, and then I have a few darks. And so that just variety, and that helps me shape my patch of flowers.
Well,
There you go. Oh, look at that. Just be free with it. Yeah,
Okay.
there you're getting, but again, I would let that connect. I don't know if it did or not, but when I
Okay.
was painting it,
Uh-huh. Do you want me to let that come back?
yeah, because these three are almost the same size,
Okay,
and they just go 1, 2, 3.
okay.
And flowers, to me, flowers are more interesting in clusters.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. You don't have to do all of them, but you see, just what you just did. Doesn't that look more interesting?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, cool.
Yeah. That's why we are here. Have fun.
You-
Point.
Well, this, this doesn't happen, I've been doing this a while, but this is not what I do a lot of. But I want it in my toolbox. If I'm painting plein air, I'm gonna paint plein air tomorrow. I have no idea what I'm gonna paint. By the way, you're all invited. Everyone's invited to go to the Peterson Ranch tomorrow. It's $5 from 10 to 6 or something.
Where's it at?
It's Somas. It's off the LA Avenue. If you know where the Nut House is, it's close to there.
I live in one.
Huh?
I live in one.
Oh, I know. You would know, you know where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a ranch that's private now, so there's 3 months. So I'll let you know next month what the ranch is gonna be. It's gonna be a different one. We've made a deal with 3 ranches that are private to go on and on the premises for $5 and paint. And they also have, you can if you want to fill out the form, they have food, they have lunch and dinner that they're catering.
Yeah.
So it's on Studio Channel Island's website. It's called Open Range, I think. So I'll when we get done with this workshop, I'll put that as part of the email.
Nice.
And of course, they're thinking plein air artists. When do plein air artists go paint? First light, last light.
Yeah.
So they made it from 10 to like whatever, dinner time. So I said, wait a second, 10 o'clock? That's going on flat light. By the time you're set up, paint at 11, the light sucks. So
Yeah.
anyway, so
Right.
keep playing. I want you, I don't want to rush this because I want you to keep going until you fail. Or you have something that you magically happen. You're very close to something.
Do something.
So I can see, I can see your pattern. So if I were you, I would probably bring just a little bit of the dark.
Something in the middle.
See,
Somewhere.
yeah, see this little
Yeah.
dark right here?
Yeah.
So you can bridge that, and I even put a little bit up here. So now I have this kind of diagonal shape this way, but I have this dark going that way. So that makes
Yeah.
it kind of neat.
I was going for a diagonal,
I
but
don't know.
it
I
didn't
don't
happen,
get it.
so that's all right.
Yeah, don't force this technique, especially don't try to force it. Just take what it gives you.
Joe, I'm, we have some copies of this.
Oh, yes.
Joe, I need some help. I'm really lost.
Well, what you should do
I
is,
don't get it.
just let it dry and look at it later.
Okay.
So this is going right across the bottom. See that fence right there?
Yeah, that's a
Your
little
green,
bit.
you gotta bring that up into. You gotta make this shape a little bit more interesting than just that,
Oh,
I think.
right, right. That's just that I have no picture in my mind of what
Okay,
it
then
looks
just
like.
set it aside and
It
start.
looks beautiful.
The
though,
biggest
so far.
favor you can do to with yourself is if you're really just keep touching the paper, hoping something will happen, stop.
Okay.
But just put it aside and let it dry and then figure it out later.
Can we get your input on what we're doing?
Of course, here. I'm gonna
I don't-
pin you. Who said that?
Mimi.
Oh, okay. Let me pin you.
Oh God,
Okay.
okay. I don't know where to go or if I should just put it aside and see, or if it's already done. I mean, like mistake.
Can I see it?
Yeah.
Hold
see
it
this?
back so I can see the whole thing. There. Well, you certainly have the technique. I can see the flowers.
Good.
I
But-
would.
But
I
as to
think-
where they are, yeah.
I like it the way it is. I wouldn't. I'd put it aside.
Okay.
I'd put a mat on it and see how you like it.
Okay.
How about that?
Okay, cool. At least it's not a total failure. That's good.
Oh, no.
Or maybe not
Carol?
good. It is what
look,
it is.
Carol's got it. There you go. Hold it back a little bit, Carol.
I can't-
And
Oh,
up a
that's
little bit.
beautiful. Look at that.
Up a little bit. Yeah, see the value. See, that's
Yeah.
that's not about technique. That's about value.
Values.
So anyway, that's what most of this is. The technique, you'll figure it out, but the design, and the design is done by shapes, and each one of those shapes are defined by a value. So I want a nice range of values. That's the reason Carol's had a lot of contrast in her value. Those white flowers and the dark behind it. Then everybody went, ooh.
Ah,
They could see the shape. I mean, they could see the shape, and that was a nice natural shape. It had clusters. Yes. Carol, you're muted.
huh.
Carol, I can't hear you. Hello?
You can turn, with your cell phone, you can turn your piece of art into a black, white, and gray. And it's really helpful because you go, oh,
Ah,
so
Yeah.
it's
And you see it right away. I've said this a number of times. It's called,
course.
there's a bunch. I use Notanizer, Notanizer. I think it's $3, $2.99 to put on your phone. You take a pic of
Yeah.
it and you break it down into 3 values, 2 values, 4 values, and you can adjust those. So that's the way you can say,
Mm.
oh, something about this painting is bugging me. So you can do it that way.
So,
Great, great.
um,
Thank you.
Yeah, I
so
can-
Joe,
Yes.
I took a photo of my painting and, can I share that?
Sure.
Great.
Photo?
If I can see, did you send me the photo or you,
Oh,
did you put it, did
it says
did
host
you,
disabled participant screen sharing. Can you,
I'm sharing the screen with you right now.
no, I know it, but if you enable me, I could share my screen. So,
Okay. Where are you? Where are you? Oh, Steve,
It's either, it's probably strapped.
make co-host.
no, anyway, I could send it to you if that's easier.
Well, I'm looking at it.
There somewhere there's a setting that you can say allow people to share, other people to share.
Is that right? On
Yeah.
Zoom?
Yeah.
It is Zoom. I'll have to look that up. I just made you
Okay.
the co-host.
Oh, there you go.
so I can
Okay.
share my screen. You want me to make you the co-host? Or you want to send?
It, yeah, either
I made
way.
you. I made you the co-host, so now you can
Okay.
share your screen.
This will stop other screen sharing. Do you want to continue? I guess.
Yeah, fine, go for it.
Here we go. Okay.
There you go.
Ooh,
Got it. See, look at that. That's Steve's style.
very cool.
And
Well,
you could put that into a gallery. I'm guessing you could put that in a gallery right now for an abstract floral, if you will.
is it done?
Steve, is it done?
Yeah, is it done?
Yeah, put a mat on it.
Oh yeah? Okay, all right. Well, okay, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you get the technique? Do you get the technique where you're actually painting with the spray bottle?
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Okay,
love
cool.
that. I love that. And I love
Okay.
flowers, and yeah. Now,
Okay.
could you envision doing that for like a cityscape?
Of course. I mean, this is all organic shape.
Right, right.
It's hard to spray straight lines, but for sparkly lights in the city, it glows
Uh-huh.
in the city. I could imagine you using it. Can
Okay.
you give the screen back to me?
Oh, I think I thought I did. Did I not? Okay. What do I?
Remove pin. Okay, maybe you did. Remove pin. Okay, now I'm back. Now you guys can see my screen again. I think so. Yes. Okay, we're back to this.
Yeah.
So 5 minutes, finish this up, and then we'll tackle one of the pieces of reference.
Great. Okay.
Come on, little guy. Come on. Come on.
While we're waiting for people to finish things up, could you discuss more of the materials or tools used with the masking fluid?
With masking fluid?
I was looking up things like these rubber erasers and,
Oh,
different things, and what do you use to remove it and things like that.
I use a pickup, a rubber cement pickup. And this is what I use for masking fluid, is PVO drawing gum. That's what Nita Engle recommended, and that's all I've used because it's gray. I can see where I put it. I do not like any mask that's clear or white, which I have some. And you pick that up, if you're afraid that it's too damp, then I just use a paper towel and I rub across it. I can rub the mask off, or I can use a rubber cement pickup if I know it's perfectly dry.
These are positive.
And so the rubber pickup, is that like a square, like a
Yes.
2-inch square piece of rubber?
Yeah, I don't even know if I have one anymore.
In other words, you put dark.
I really don't have a need for it. In the old days, it was indispensable. I don't even think I have one. I just use my fingers and I rub it off. Oh, here's a rubber cement pickup. There you go. That's what it is. That'll take the mask off. Thanks.
Because I looked that up and there were so many different brands, and some of them were like $15 for one, and some of them were $6 for a multi-pack. And what's the difference?
Without looking at it, I think one is just overpriced. Go to the art store, they're really cheap. Anyway, you're right there.
I think I'm gonna leave this alone.
Whoa. Yeah. Very nice. Everybody's is so nice. Wow, look at that. That's gorgeous. It's pretty. Oh, yeah, nice. Real nice. Oh, a bunch of talented people in here.
Trying to let it dry without fiddling with it.
Anybody getting tamales? I'm just asking.
Right, it's that time. Closes at 12.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Okay, when are you gonna start the next one?
I'm printing stuff out. I'm printing some things out right now for the people here. So I want to use
Class, I was so nervous because everybody was so good.
oh, don't compare, don't judge.
Everybody's looks great.
No, I thought everybody would judge
beautiful.
me when I
Look at-
first joined a class.
Okay, I'm gonna paint this one, just so you know.
Tell the-
So I'm gonna print that out for how many people want.
have it. That's what he was- and then he was dark. I did my homework and at least brought that.
So what do we do? Kind of put it in-
Page.
Want to keep it wet. Maybe the other greens.
How many people have this?
Yeah, you're right.
Got it.
Yeah, but- No, they all look beautiful. I think they look beautiful. You got the white areas.
So I only have one,
This is really
two.
some opera.
I need one.
Q pink, I think, maybe.
Who needs one?
I do.
Who needs one here?
What? What are you
What?
talking?
Do you need this?
Picture.
I need pictures.
Do you need
Which
that?
picture? Oh,
Have you got it? It's on your phone. It's on your Insend cluster. How many people need a printed out version?
Yeah, I do.
You need to figure out cluster too. Or
white areas. For now.
so you can tape down a board or prepare.
Okay, this is the one we're gonna work on, this one here, Joe?
I'm sorry?
This one here is what we're gonna work on next.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, you guys can paint any of these that you want. They're all going to be kind of the same, but I kind of like that one. And I think you can still see my screen. Who needed one?
I have one. I didn't need one. Wow. Thank you.
So when are we gonna do the stamps? Does that go with this?
After this,
Oh, okay.
so I'm just going to let me see something. Yes, I do. So I might just be done with this. I kind of like this the way it is.
Yep.
Anyway. Now you can draw this. I don't care how you do this. I would draw this. Don't try to force it. Just try to follow your reference, but don't be a slave to it. Because the watercolor, as you just experienced, is going to give you stuff. And that's what watercolor does. It gives you, for me, it gives me more than I could do by myself. Makes me look better. So now we're going to try this in a specific area. Yeah. I want to talk to you at lunch or after. Because I think I can help you because what you're a good watercolor artist. What you need help with is design.
Design and imagination.
Well, that's part of it, but visualization, I can see it. There's a lot of times, and this just comes from experience, there's a lot of times where I can see a painting done. I know it's going to work about halfway through, or maybe even sooner. But you all know that I like to do those value studies first anyway, so that's going to help me. This technique is a little more random than that. But unless your wildflowers are the star of the show, then you don't really have to worry about that. So for me, penciling this, and I don't want to start doing a lot of pencil because all this stuff is going to be random. This is what we're painting right here. This is what we're going to, this is just a bunch of spatter at the end. So really what we're painting is this area right here. So I'm just going to make a diagonal. There's my diagonal, and that's this guy. And yes, I can say, okay, trees go here, and I'm going to make my mountains go this way. And there's my mountains. And I'm probably going to put a bigger, I'm going to put a bigger tree right here, just to break that up. I'm going to have a rock here. And another rock here. And I'm going to have a rock to balance that, all pointing down to about here. And I just want to be aware of that shape. So now I'm designing, and I think I will put something else going on here. So now I am designing, okay? And I've got some another trees going on up here, but I want this one, because I want this side to balance this side. So now there's my bigger tree. And I might have some rocks out here, but that doesn't make any difference. So there's really my drawing. That's my fabulous drawing. Okay.
Are you drawing that darker than you normally would so we can see it?
Yeah. All of these are just they're nothing is set in stone. I'm just giving myself a little foundation instead of a blank sheet of paper. That's all. I'm going to make another rock coming in down here just to pick that up. So now I'm designing. I can see this in my head, and I'm just designing. So if you get that far, I'm waiting for a couple people, and then we can start this. Get fresh water. I'm gonna use my contaminated palette because I like it. I'm gonna try to stay in frame. There we go.
Joe, are we using our oiler boiler on this one?
I'm using what?
Are we gonna use our oiler boiler on this one?
No.
Okay.
Want to go get some more water?
Oh, that was good to walk to get some fresh air.
Mhm.
You supposed to draw something? We're doing this flower, right?
We're doing, we're doing this, yeah. And he did the sketch. The lower one is easier to see than that one. But he's already sketched it out.
Can't see either. Blur.
Just sketched it out.
Need more water.
Thank you.
So normally what I would do with this, by the way, Ursula, are you there? Mac, Ursula? Hello? Stop the share for a second, see if they're there. Guess they're not there. Ursula, did you see Steve's painting?
I did. It's fabulous.
Okay, that's what I wanted to point out to you because I know you are an abstract painter, or you
Yeah.
like to paint impressionistic abstract. So there you go. There's an example. It's not about style. This is just about technique for this.
Yeah, I really love that. Yeah. Thank
Good.
you.
Okay, normally what I would do with this is I would paint heaven to earth, top to bottom, wet to dry, big to small, etc., etc. But I want to get the bottom of this painted because then we take a little break, lunch break. And I'm going to show a video on Joey Z. If you've seen it before, that's too bad because some of you have not seen it. And that way it'll give this a chance to dry. So you get it. Get it. I think you get the technique.
I'm trying, yeah, the next one hopefully will be better.
Well, who knows? There's no guarantees. That's why we're all risk-free.
It's right. So why does everybody have this white in here? Mine just all.
That's,
the water. Yeah,
That-
mine, yeah.
yeah, it's too much water. So what I'm going to do is find my glasses. So I think I've got in my mind, I think I've got kind of an interesting diagonal, and this is gonna outweigh that. And I can adjust these rocks. I just want to have an idea of where they might go when I start painting these flowers. And I don't care about spattering. I don't care about spattering up here. So I'm gonna mix my colors again. I see I have some pink.
You're doing the foreground first?
I'm doing the foreground first. And so I'm using alizarin or Quinn Rose or something like that.
You're drying, on dry, right?
This paper's dry.
It's gonna splatter.
I'm gonna spatter just like we just got done
Oh.
doing. So I want some kind of a, I think I want some kind of a big kind of spatter up here. There we go. And I'm just kind of following my reference. I'm spattering that, and then I'm going to spatter somewhere over in here. There's enough. And then it starts to get, I'm going to add some orange to that mix.
What's your mix besides?
And
red?
what?
Is that red and?
Look at the reference. Just look at the reference. I've got pink, I've got orange, I've got red, I've got yellow flowers,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So now I'm just mixing in a little orange and maybe a little bit. I don't care where the rocks are. And now I'm gonna go make some yellow, just for fun, just to see what happens. I want to make sure this releases. I've got some yellow in here. That's good. Wherever else, just vary the amount. There's no right or wrong. There, that's plenty. Now is when I'm a master of the universe. I can start painting with my my sprinkle bottle. And so I'm going to start up here. And I don't want these flowers to be very big because they're in the background.
That's splatter all over the sky.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So that's not working good.
I wanna save that white down there. A lot of this is going to be covered up with green. There's a lot of green in here. I'm just trying to make, I see a big cluster right here. I like that. I'm gonna try to keep that. Ooh, look at that juicy pink going on down through there. I think that's enough. I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to start globbing up a little bit of this paint. And I'm gonna leave room for this rock or something that's going on in here. I'm just touching this. Now I'm starting to define some flowers. That's gonna be a rock. And this is really just gonna be green down here. So I don't care about that. Get rid of some of this water. Lots of
That's a good
lots
idea.
of green down in
Stop.
here.
Splatter all over the paint.
That's okay. Here, I gave you the sprinkle bottle.
Yep.
There.
It works awesome, too. Much better than these little things that we brought.
This is kind of messy, but not too bad. I'm gonna run mine diagonally up the hill here. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. I think I like that. And now I can go back. That's wet right there. I'm gonna go lay my paper flat. I'm gonna make some more pink right there. Look at, I just touched it. I'm gonna make some more pink in here. That's cool. I'd rather have more than less just because I can always cover it up. Now I'm designing. Want these flowers up here to be a little bit smaller. I've got a big gap right here, this green. I don't like this. I know that's a way in, but it's too big a gap. So I'm just gonna take what this is giving me right now. There's a flower that's left. Here's a cluster here, but I've made a connection. Going to make a connection just by touching those. So now I've got a little path coming from here up into there. Orange. I'm not trying to paint things. I'm just trying to see what my big shapes are. I think that'll work. I think. Who knows? It's constantly adjusting. But I will, I'll take the start. So now I gotta let that dry. I'm gonna let it dry flat. So then after we take a snack break, then we can start painting this dark going around it. Start framing those flowers in. How fun. If it were sunny out, which it's not. I thought it was supposed to be sunny later.
Yellow. If you want, whatever color you want. You don't know.
Starting to get sunny in Westlake Village.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's just up here. Yeah, that's a very lot of puddles right here. So I'm gonna have to let that settle down. If I have to re-wet it, I will. The other half of my breakfast.
Okay, now.
Remember, yeah, good.
So-
Good cluster. Yeah, there's a good cluster.
I tried to go that way.
Yeah, cool. Try to leave white paper.
Okay,
Okay,
Oh, okay. Oh, wow, a soft, kind of a soft scone.
well, it's fresh.
Sometimes scones get too hard
Yeah,
for me.
I know.
That's not.
Lemon blueberry.
think so. You want part of it now?
Anyway, now, yes, I know I have more color on there than I'm gonna end up with, but that's okay.
Leave lights.
I have preserved the whites,
Where do you
the lights.
draw this down?
I'm
here?
just trying to,
Down here at the bottom? That's awesome.
yep, I'm just leaving a bunch because there's gonna be green somewhere.
Oh.
So if you're to a point where you want to, don't know what to do next, or you are getting rid of your white paper, I want you to stop and let it dry. Yeah, you're done. You can let that dry flat, or you can let that dry,
Yeah.
however you want to let it dry.
Should I put it outside?
Yes, you do clusters. Oh, good. There you go. That's kind of fun, huh?
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Your paper's so wet.
Yeah,
And the color doesn't make any difference. It's the value of it. I don't care whether they're pink flowers or blue flowers or purple flowers, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
In fact, when Nita Engle was painting her some of her flowers, she was trying to paint lupins, which are vertical. So she put down the blue purpley paint, the blue paint, and she, instead of spraying like this, she tried to spray like that vertically around it to get that cone shape. But I can already see that those wildflowers in there. So in about 5 minutes, I will show you, for those of you who have not seen it, why we paint watercolor.
Why we what?
Why we paint watercolor, why we chose watercolor as a medium.
Oh.
I'm actually wearing my watercolor.
You actually what?
I'm wearing my watercolor. I'm a mess.
Well, you'll figure out eventually that you don't have to do as much as you think.
No, I'm good on paper. I'm just not good on clothes.
Nita Engle always said the biggest cause for failure is trying to do too much.
Yeah.
Let it dry. Bring it outside. Should I just blot up the blobs or?
Yeah, just carry it flat. I'm gonna put it outside in the fog. So how you been? Good.
He's really over there. Bobby, look how pretty that is. It is, it's good.
So what do you want to do? You want to slice it, you just want to do them like this. You slice it. Well. Oh, you did like that. Thanks.
I don't know how this figures it out. In the middle of a workshop,
What?
my hearing aid battery goes out.
Oh,
Or if I'm teaching class, or if I'm in the car.
it's like when you really need your printer, it doesn't want to print
Yeah.
for you.
It never picks a good time.
Probably because there isn't one.
Right, there you go. But thank God I'm not totally deaf, so I can get along.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What'd you say?
I said, thank
Yeah,
God
it's
I'm.
just a joke. It's just a joke.
I get it. Huh?
How about my internet connection went out last night?
Yeah, the rain has been doing a job for me. I'm on Dish and I've got a tree trimmer coming today to give me an estimate. Is it out of water? It's out of water.
Oh, shoot, I can see water there. You can't hear, I can't see. You live in Camarillo?
South House. Oh. Well, look at that mess she made. So she is preserving whites without masking because she's not wetting the paper there.
This lunchtime,
Yeah, find some of the middles.
so you were gonna help me.
It's flowers now.
Let me do something here while we're at it. I'm going to put this away and I'm going to I'll show you kind of sort of what Steve was talking about.
They're beautiful. Stand back, the further back. Those.
Which one? It's this one. Okay, I think you can all see that. This. So that's what we're painting. And so the first thing I'm going to do that the app that Steve has, which is I have Notanizer, I have a couple of them, is I'm going to change this to a grayscale. So there now it's grayscale. And even though it's not I mean, it's still pixelated, I don't care because I don't want to see the detail. So now I'm just gonna, for fun, see what it looks like, posterized. So there's 4 levels. That means 2 midtones, dark and light. So I'm squinting at it, and that's what I see. And then now that is 3 values, dark, light, and midtone. I think I have more information in 4. So I'll cancel that, and I'll say maybe I can make this a little more contrasty so I can see the shapes better. So there's a little more contrast in that. So I'll say okay. And you can do all this in that adjustment on your phone. Very similar to it. So now I'm going to posterize it. And now I see, I'm squinting my eyes and I see this is a mid-tone shape. I see a shape here. I see a shape here. I see actually I see a shape here. In fact, let me do this. Let me see if I can't do this and add a layer to it, and then it'll make more sense, I guess. So I'm trying to get you to see shapes. So that's too big. And I don't want gradients. I want palette. Swatches. Yep, there you go. I'll just use this. Okay. So now come on, let me see that. Opacity normal, yes. That'll be better. Oh, I know why. Mode. Go back. Okay. Yeah. So now I see this shape. Okay. And that's going to go on down here, and I see this shape, and I see actually I just see this big shape right here. I see this diagonal shape. I see these mountains. That's a shape up here someplace. I wonder why that's being so slow. I see another little shape down here, and that's really kind of all I need. So I see this wedge, this triangle here. I see this kind of what I want to call it, kind of a trapezoid, and that's kind of a wedge shape. Yes, I have spots of light around those, and I will take care of those later. So, and I have the shape of these trees. And so that's my, if I oh, I did merge it. That's why. So those are big shapes that I see. And I'm going to put a bigger shape in here because I want this tree to balance these guys. Okay. So that's what I mean by the bigger shape. So when I put in my color, I am going to put some of it down here, but I'm going to put most of it where I see the shapes, these lighter shapes here, maybe a little bit there. So that's going to be where I'm going to spatter and where I'm going to go around. So I want to leave white paper in here. This is all going to be a lot of green, and that doesn't need white paper. This is going to be my dark in here. This is going to be a mid-tone, but it's going to be a light mid-tone back here in these mountains. And that's going to be white or light. And I do have some light sprinkled in here, but I don't care what is in the shape. I care about the shape, the big shape in itself. I don't care whether it's light, dark, mid-tone in that shape. I'm looking for that big shape to paint to. Okay? I don't care if there's a rock and there's flowers. I don't care. I'm looking for the shape. The big shape. There's the big shape mountains. Yes, I know this is darker. It's closer to me. This gets lighter and bluer as it goes back in the distance. Yes, I know all that. And I decided that this is dragging me off the page. So I'm going to put that big guy right here. So does that make sense to you? Does that make sense to anybody?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
So
kind
the
of how
tree
I,
on the right, you're not gonna make that as big.
well,
like
I do that.
dragging you off the page.
I do that when I'm drawing a lot because I've been doing it long enough that I can look at the reference and I can squint my eyes and I can say, oh yeah, okay, that's a shape for that. You know, that's representing, usually it's 4 to 6 major shapes: sky, land, water, subject, whatever it happens to be. And you can see that actually on this one, I was copying her. I just did this. This is the first one I did. And I don't want this. I don't want that. Not yet. What did I do with my? Oh, I want to go back there. So I see this major
my
shape.
God.
This is a diagonal. That's a diagonal. This is kind of my horizon line back here. These mountains for me are too straight across. So because this is a wedge right here, I probably would have made this mountain stick up a little bit more and gone off to the side. I would make this not a straight across shape. I would make it more mountainous. And the trees go from here up here and then back down to here. That's kind of a neat tree shape right here. Anyway, when I was painting it, I let the watercolor paint itself, and I was using this kind of for reference, and you can kind of see. But anyway, when I was painting this, it kind of took over, so I did keep that diagonal. And then I had some space left, so I said, oh, there's my mountain. I'm going to simplify those and put some hills back here. And this was an interesting shape for the trees to me. And so I made this water back here. Just for fun, or a field. It could be water, could be a field, could be whatever. Anyway, I had to do over again or just go back to this one. I would let some of this shape right here bleed down into the flowers. Flowers there's too much in the flowers. Now, although I like this spot right here, I would kill it. And you guys wouldn't even know. So, having said that, let me play this for you. And I'm going to do you a favor so you can actually see it. And this doesn't last too long, but it's why I think it's why I paint in watercolor. Sure. And if you've seen it, that's okay.
Nothing else.
I sent it to
Yeah, I'll have a couple. I got to bring mine. I usually bunch them when I'm painting. I'm good.
Okay. There's Joseph Zabukovich.
Wife, I don't remember her name.
Yes. Lovely people.
Yeah.
Lovely people.
Yeah,
I
and
had a ball in St.
I've lost, I think 35 pounds since that was taken, so hopefully I'm gonna keep it off. Okay, now we'll get back to you and your panel here.
All right. Well,
Can everybody see this and hear it? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
I decided
I know you
to
can.
show you the beauty of watercolor, what it can do, how easy it is to do if you do it properly. The biggest problem students have with watercolor is not brushes and paints, what colors to mix and paper and all that sort of thing. It's the way they relate to it. And that is that they look at the image and try to emulate it on the page. and they make the image, the actual source, more important than the painting. So they don't pay attention to what watercolor is doing. Watercolor will tell you what to do if you dance with it, if you kind of do like a tango, going back and forth and watch what it's doing. Sorry about my voice. It will do it for you. So what I'm going to do is try and avoid put my head in the camera, and I'll just, no drawing, no anything. And we're going to start with just a little, I'll wet this a bit, just randomly. And we're going to paint a little snowscape. It'll take 2 seconds.
All right.
Very quick. So the wetness, of course, has given me a soft edge there. And you have to kind of imagine there's a sky there and so forth. So here is our low-lying hill. And if I mix up some thicker water, sorry, I'm not talking colors and things, but it's pretty obvious, just a bit of ultra there. If we go a bit darker at the bottom, it instantly gives us this lovely edge. Now, this is what I mean about relating to what's happening there. If you look at it, I can spot a little line here, and I can increase that a bit and go down a bit, and I can get a little building out of this more or less instantaneously. Now, here's a square building, and if I put in a few trees and things and a road leading out, you have to use your imagination a little bit. I've got up some thicker pigment for some trees and things, just a bit stronger around this building. And that, we've got a nice soft edge here, soft edge there, sharp edges here. This is all visual language, and it creates this, I think it's quite nice, this little landscape, some bits. And I'll tell you what, to make it a little bit more realistic, I'll put in, so we can have a little village here.
It's amazing how rapidly you made that village with 1 or 2 brush strokes.
Exactly, but I don't have any reference. You see, this is what happens. People look at the reference and then they get obsessed with it, and they say, oh, there's a building here and there's a building there, and they kind of waste all this energy trying to emulate that rather than watching what's actually happening on your paper. That will give you all the answers. So I think I'll get a smaller brush, and to make it really realistic, this is our little road here. Let's put in a little man here with a little bit of color. He's in red to stand out. We'll give him a little head. It's quite small there. And he's going hunting, I guess, something like that, like a darker pants. And let's give him the usual little dog there with a little tail. So there he is in the snow going hunting. Okay?
Yep.
You got that?
Yep, got it.
Right. So there he is going hunting in the snow. Everything is happening. So what I'll do now is travel to Venice. Now it's strange.
This is our surprise. This is our surprise.
Well, of sorts, yes. So we just go up here with the little church tower. I'll get a smaller brush. It's too big. Skoda brushes have incredible points. You can draw and add with it. So this is the beginning of our church tower. So it's not a big church tower in a village there. It's actually in Venice, as you will see in a minute. So now I will do this. How are we doing for time?
You have about 11 minutes.
I can do it.
No pressure.
Right. There. So this is the lagoon in Venice with the little church across there, St. Giorgio. A few seagulls. But we can't have a village in the snow there.
No.
So this needs to be gone. What I forgot to mention is that you can only do this while the painting is wet. Of course, if whatever I'd done before had dried, I couldn't do this. Now, a lot of students don't paint in watercolor time. They paint in their own time, chasing that image. And
That
in the
was
meantime,
important.
the watercolor is drying and you end up with a dead looking thing that cannot be moved, cannot be corrected, whatever. So here we are,
It's my
From-
favorite part coming up.
the snow scene. We have ended up in Venice.
All right.
You can't have a guy with a dog going hunting on the lagoon in Venice, can you?
No, he needs to be in a gondola.
Exactly. So what we do is this, yeah?
Ah! Fabulous.
Now, I'm not doing this to impress people or anything like that. It is really just showing how important it is. Here's Lisa and I sitting in a gondola. It's expensive, you know, it's about $80 for half an hour. And
Yeah.
the guy constantly talks and drives you insane. It's silly talking. So a little bit of a reflection just to make it look a little bit more real. And I think we can have some other boats and things there. You're still with me?
I'm with you.
Here's a little boat here. And a vaporetto and some other bits here. So we've gone a long way from our little
Snow scene.
snow scene, haven't we?
Yes,
I mean,
we have.
it's gone, but it's in there. You know, the snow, there's a little bit of that thing left there. As I keep pointing out, if you just look at this, and what I'll do is I'll spray it a little bit to keep it wet, because I'm going to change this again. Sometimes people get upset because they say, oh, that's so nice, don't spoil it. But that's another thing. Don't get precious about your work when you paint. I think you can get too, oh, gee, I love this and so on. Always stay calm, always say what's offering, what can I do with it, where can I go, whatever. And you can see that what spraying has done, it's actually making the pigment move again and it's become alive again. There's a bit of smoke coming up here from this vaporetto and so on. I'll just straighten that up a bit. That's it. Venice is done. So we will go to New York, let's say.
Oh, wow.
Or Melbourne. Or Melbourne. All right. So I'll need to get a bigger brush. And no, actually, I'll start with a smaller one. I'll start with distance first. A bit of pale blue here. And sorry, here you go. I'll keep this church tower. You do have some old buildings in the city. So the other thing is, I'm just looking at my brush strokes here, and I want to point out how important it is to try and do the shape in as least amount of brush strokes you can manage. This business of dabbing at things forever, it just doesn't work. Now I'll get a bigger brush.
That was important.
Some stronger pigment. And we will, sorry, that's all gone. It's a bit, I know it's sacrilege a bit, but there you are.
Come on, Squeak.
I just thought it would be, oops, I wasn't supposed to go there. Where's my tissue? That's gone too far. Get rid of that. By the way, I'm using bohung paper, which is a new introduction onto the scene. It is available.
What's it called?
Bohung. It's made in China, and it's in direct competition with all the other papers. It is much cheaper than everything else that we are so used to buying. And I'll just spray this because it's gone a bit dry. It's very tough. It's very strong. It's quite a remarkable surface. Not that easy to use, but when you master it, it is quite fantastic. And we better put in the other side.
It is very tough.
So there we are.
It's
And
tough
of
to get
course,
used to.
we've still got our gondolier here. I know that there is a gondola in Central Park on the park, but I don't think we can keep him really. Now I really need to dig into some pigment and get a little bit stronger.
All right.
And this is again a lesson in tone. As soon as you put these darks in at the base here, it makes that go back.
Yeah, you got about 8 minutes, by the way.
Oh, plenty of time.
Yeah,
We're nearly there. We're nearly there.
and add another city.
Well, yes, if I had a piece of paper that was big enough, I could go back to the snow scene and back to Venice and so on until I ended up with a painting,
What
you know,
weight is this paper?
40 meters long.
140 pounds,
I think we can make
It's on
this into
there,
a
I think.
card here. And
100% cotton.
I'll keep some of this white. And again, some cars here. And of course, we've got a gondola in the middle of a street. So he's going to have to go. Sorry about that.
Farewell.
Well, I'm hoping to keep the man. So,
Well, it could be a gondola in Central Park, you know.
yes, I know there is one there. It looks a bit strange. And they're cheating. It's actually got electric motor in it. The guy
Yeah.
goes about pretending to be rowing. So again, a bit of strength for these cars and things. Another one in there. Some of these highlights and things. Gondolier can go. We can just give him. I'm determined to keep him just to sort of make a joke of it.
Watch your head.
Yep. Okay. Gotcha. Oh, here's an umbrella. There. And we'll come down with this.
It's fascinating.
Becomes a street. I think we can start introducing some color. A bit more strength still. Or whatever. Some trees, there's a park here. And that umbrella around there. I can go back to this now a bit and bring this forward a little bit so it comes in front of that. So this is starting to go back. I can even spray it a bit more and lose some of that even more. And a bit more strength here.
He's the one that came up with the phrase.
I'm so gonna take up watercolor now. It's just totally blowing me away.
Don't state.
You got 5 minutes.
Suggest.
When you use it properly, it's actually not that difficult. It's this business of trying to force it to do what you want it to do, and it won't do it. It'll only do what it wants to do. So what you do is you dance with it, and you say, it's now time to put in some darks, some darker figures here, people walking, whatever. And I'll throw in a yellow cab, seeing that we are in New York. Just a bit of color there. And probably a bit too wet for what I want to do, but I'll try and put in some traffic lights and things here. Using some of my famous grave, Daniel Smith. And I think if I go up here and put in a traffic light, see, just that alone, it pops. So it pushes that back. And I'm afraid our little man is just too gone. We're going to have to get
Okay, Ben's blocking again.
Yep.
I know it's hard to paint sideways.
Yes, yes. Well, for smaller details, you tend to, what's the word? Going a bit closer, and that's
Yeah, of course.
I'm nearly done. I'll just do the last bit, which is this. The wet street scene needs reflections, doesn't
Of
it?
course. Oh, fabulous.
So that will paint itself. And if I spray the bottom part of it, that will soften the edges a little bit.
Outstanding.
Smaller brush. go down a little bit of finesse here and there. Water on a brush. And you can cut through there, give some directional lines, soften some of this distance. It disappears back there.
Well, I'm pretty impressed. It takes a lot to impress me, but you've blown me away, Joseph.
All right, one last thing. I know that we've got to go. I will just put in some street lamps, furniture. The architects call this entourage, believe it or not.
Entourage.
Street lamps, entourage, that's what the architects say. As soon as we put in some of this sort of finer detail,
Oh, yeah.
it again pushes everything back. It doesn't have to be super accurate. It has some more traffic lights in the distance, and maybe last bit a few traffic lights and so forth. Bit of colour if I can get it out. It's a little bit too wet yet. I've ran out of time.
Yeah, well, we get the idea, though.
Yep. And maybe a couple
Oh,
of.
yeah, well, that makes it, doesn't it?
Wow.
Yeah, well, that is now it's a trap for students. They think if we do this, the painting will work. The painting only works if the shapes, big shapes, relate correctly.
Yeah.
It doesn't work because we put in some taillights and
The big
reflection.
shapes.
How painting is made to work is by relating the major shapes correctly. I can't stress that enough. If there is a lesson I can give you, that's the one. So there we are. I think I'm done. I've run out of time anyhow. So
Well,
thank you
we have
very much. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, we need to get Lisa to put you back on camera with me.
All right. We'll just take it off here. Here we go.
Okay.
All done.
Outstanding.
All right.
That was fabulous. Outstanding. Thank you. So we're so excited about having you on.
Anyway, I will send you the link to that
Hmm.
if you'd like to show your friends or watch it again or
Wow.
Absolutely
share it.
amazing. Wow.
Yeah, that was that was a good explanation for me about why I paint watercolor. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm taking what watercolor gives me. I'm not trying to force it. That's the big message.
Hmm.
But he also mentioned the major shapes once again. What are the big shapes? The details cannot save a painting.
Do we bring our painting in?
Huh?
Should we go get our painting in from outside?
Yeah, go get your paintings. That should have dried enough by now that you should be able to should knock this guy out and then go on to stamping and then some more on oh yeah, this paper is tough as hell. I ordered another
I feel it.
I ordered another
It's got an interesting texture too.
yeah, it's you know what I like about it is I always wish there were a semi-rough, you know, somewhere between rough
Right.
cold press and rough, because I don't paint. Rough is great when you paint full sheets, but it's not so great when you paint small.
Price wise compared to arches, what's it like?
Anyway.
16 and
Huh?
change for 20 sheets on Amazon. Oh, much cheaper.
Anyway, it cost me about $30 with shipping on Amazon,
Wow.
and so I got another pad. I have 2 pads of that. I can attest to beating it up. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's still pretty wet outside.
It's okay.
Okay.
it'll have to do. It will do. Don't get too precious. So there's my start for this guy. So again, just like I did in that Photoshop thing, I want to make sure that I kind of sort of want to keep those major shapes. I don't want to start losing those. And I'm going to solve this before I solve that. That's a little bit backwards painting that way, but that's okay. I mean, this painting could be about the wildflowers, could be about the mountain, could be about whatever. So now I'm going to mix up some of that green color. I see some green in there, so I'm going to use Iridian, mix up a puddle. Boy, it's pretty dry. By the way, I would recommend that you mist your before you start painting, which I didn't do, is spray your palette to energize your paints. Gonna mix a little Gambosian with that to make green, some kind of green, some kind of yellowy green, lighter green. I'm more concerned with the value than anything else. I see some, I'm gonna put a few pieces of a light green back here, and I'm gonna use the dry on dry. I'm just kind of blocking in that that diagonal that I have. I can do this with spatter later. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Talking about this big rock, I want to start designing that. That's good enough. Good enough. I'm just kind of designing right now. And I'm going to even roll my brush. This works pretty good too. I'm rolling my brush. It'll give you a random pattern. Look at it, that's pretty cool. It's dark in here. So there's a big shape I just put in, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big shape.
Hmm.
And now I'm going to look for some more shapes. I'm going to mix up a little more paint. I'm using a Viridian and Gamboge. Any green you want to use. I've got another rock in here someplace, but I've got some flowers, so I'm going to start trying to cut around a few of those little flowers. Just using the tip of my brush, holding it way at the end so it doesn't get too controlled, if you will. I'm leaving a lot of those little colors that I painted earlier. There's another shape right there. I'm going to continue that on down. I'll keep some of these little, just going to go back and forth and keep some of those little highlights. Those smaller shapes in for the flowers. Again, I'm probably going to spatter at the end, so it's not a big deal. Here's some I'm going to put some blue on top of that while I have it, this rock right here. Now I have this large section right here. That pattern kind of trails off. So I'm just going to mix up some green again. A little brighter green. And I'm going to try to keep this shape. I see a big shape of green going on in here and on up into here. Kind of connect these guys. Get a little bluer with my green. I do have some flowers in here, and I'm going to try to keep those. So there's one. I'm going to connect that with the other one. I'm just doing a big shape of these right now. I'm not trying to actually concentrate on painting this one flower.
Mm.
I'm painting shapes. I'm not painting things. While that's still wet, I'm going to try to make a darker green, a darker value for sure. I see I have some darks coming in here. And some darks actually coming in here. While that's damp, it's perfect while that's damp in there. That's just blending in. I'm just squinting my eyes when I'm painting this. Trying to simplify also. Got quite a bit going on here, huh?
Yes.
Joe, at this point, are you still like, do you have that notinizer picture in your head too? Or is this just muscle memory at this point?
It's kind of both. The more you do this, the more you'll see shapes. Is it too complicated? Am I letting the page tell me what to paint, or am I trying to force it? In other words, am I trying to force, oh no, I got that wrong. Oh no, I'm just taking what that gave me. And I'm painting. There's that dark going on in here. I'm not trying to go around a bunch of stuff. I'm trying to define that rock and this rock right here. This rock going down. And this I'm just touching the brush. And so I want to, I'm just designing. I don't know of a better word right now than I'm designing. I'm looking at this shape and I'm looking at this shape. And here's a little bit of dark to balance that off. And this whole bottom shape is really quite dark. I want to do that because I want the foundation there. I want the foundation of it. That could be a little more color going off on this side. So I'm just going to take some paint and make it. I'm lifting and painting at the same time. See, I just turned that pink. And it doesn't have to be in focus for sure. There's a rock up there. I've got some more dark running right along this tree line. That's where my darkest dark will be, but I can't do that yet because I got to paint that first.
Mhm.
A little swipe of the brush. I'll have to define these rocks a little bit better later on. I'm going to start defining that one. It's not too bad. See, I've got kind of a pattern going on. I've got my focal areas here. And when that's a little bit drier, I can go back and I can say, yes, that's a pink flower. That's pinkier. So I'm getting rid of some of this white, drawing your eye up here. And also, while this is damp, I'm going to use a little bit of gamboge or orange, and while this is damp in here, I'm going to go spatter just a little bit. There we go. See that it kind of glued everything together. And I can also, yes, I can do this. So I've simplified that from what I already had. And I think that works okay. A little that brighter orange. There. Now I'm to the point where I think I can paint the top part of that, because I think I've got this kind of bothers me a little bit here, so I'm going to soften that out, kill that a little bit. Gonna bring a little bit of that cool color up into here. I'm not looking at things. I'm looking at shapes. That's all I'm doing is looking at shapes. I can use some gouache later on and make an adjustment. It's it would be real easy to let this get away from you and become way too complicated. That's what I'm trying to avoid. So stop touching it.
Jeez.
I've got enough of suggestion. I've got enough stuff going on now, I think. Now I'm going to let that settle. In fact, I think I'll just take it off of there and let it settle. At this point in time, you can't really add any gouache yet. But if you squint your eyes at this, I can still see shapes. I can see this shape, it's connected right here. I can see this whole shape right here. I can see that shape. And that's just going to suggest wildflowers. Yes, I can go back with gouache. I'm going to go back with gouache when I get done, pick this color back up. There are a few things going on up there. This needs to quiet down, this whole thing up here. It needs to quiet down, in my opinion. And because I am master of the universe, that's all that counts. I've got my lightest and brightest spot right in here, and that's a rule of thirds. That's where I want you to look. I still have that's paper, still paper there. But I have to let that settle. It would be so easy to just keep painting on this. I'm trying not to do that. In fact, I'll take screenshots later. What I should have done is taken a shot to start with. And then done this, taken another shot. And don't start painting individual flowers yet. Just go for the big suggestive shapes. And as Joey Z would have said, indicate, don't state. Kind of looks like flowers. Yay, that's all I care about. Kind of looks like a tree. Kind of looks like people. Kind of looks like a car. we're gonna put the, finished off this painting and then we're gonna do, some stamps. While this is, drying. So have your mat board handy. You know, when you buy these cups, they give you all these lids on here, and I just throw them away. And I say, can I use those for something? I can't think of anything I can use those for.
I have a whole box of them at home. Just
Yeah, I don't,
think of what you do, I'll bring it.
I got tired of saving. I used to save them because I said, you know what? But that's recyclable anyway.
Generation where.
Yes, I could have thrown some salt in here. I see some stuff happening. But to me, this kind of forms a big shape. And that's kind of what I was after. It's got some smaller shapes in it, but that big diagonal shape, it's going along with that hill. It's actually at a different angle. I can take care of, if I need a little bit of color in here, I can take care of that with gouache. So I want to knock this out. I'm just going to use a little pale. Well, my water is filthy. I got to go get some more water, but for now, maybe not. So I want that kind of a misty kind of a look. So I'm just going to give it some kind of an atmosphere. And I'm just going down to those mountains because we don't have time to let that dry completely. And then then I'm going to use some cobalt and some ultramarine to put these mountains in. And I don't have to worry too much about this edge right here. In fact, I'm going to just let that blend right in, add a little water. I'm going to leave the mountains over there light.
Right?
Break this up a little bit. Those kind of look like mountains to me. Done. Now I got to let that settle a little bit before I put those pine trees in. And then we're almost there. I'm going to emphasize this rock right here. There, that dry brush stroke worked good. There, that's kind of cool. Make that slightly darker right here. That rock kind of bends over, a little shadow in here. That looks rocky enough. I can go back with my dagger brush. Make a little green and just do a little rough weeds. Starting to work. There's a rock. I'll blot this a little bit so I can start putting in these trees. I'm going to use Viridian and Payne's Gray. I could use purple, but this is handy. And it's just like we did those little trees before. Just back and forth, a little dance, a little tree going up somewhere. Just some few little things. I'm going to make this a bigger tree right here. That's probably enough. I'm suggesting, I'm not indicating. Now I'm going to use my Dr. Martin's bleed proof white. I'm just going to add that to my orangey kind of color right here, maybe a little bit more. So that made that gouache. So now I can go over and I can put a few little things in here. I want to break this up just a tad. I could use this to a spatter too. Couple little guys way back here. Just to carry that theme. Actually, you can control the direction of the spatter. So I want to spatter this way. So it's giving me that kind of a stroke. So that's enough. It's kind of cool. Oops, that's too much. So I'll just blot that off. Okay, I'm just going to wait for that to dry before I sign it. I'll look at it tomorrow or later and see if I need to do anything, but I think it's going to be okay. That's me speaking. That's no one else. That's just me. And I'll probably change my mind in 5 minutes, but I really wanted to capture that pinkiness without getting rid of that white paper. That's a little better. So this looks like a complete painting to me. I mean, it's cohesive. It doesn't look like it's, oh, this part's here and this part's here and this part's here. It looks kind of, sort of, it connects. Those big shapes, connect. A little dry brush right there for that rock. Now I'm going to stop touching it. Okay. Does that make sense? See how easy it is to take a little gouache later on to just connect. I mean, just fill a couple, dead spaces, or you don't need much to do it.
I still need to learn how to connect them and leave white.
Yeah, that's just doing it. This is not an easy, workshop, because you really do have to let go. And of course, that doesn't look like it, the reference, because I designed it, I created, I didn't copy, although this inspired me. Good shapes. Good shapes. Nice shapes.
Sherry 1 gram.
Okay, next we're going to use some of those and make some of those.
Yes.
And you do not need a good sheet of paper for this. By the way, I was talking about connecting shapes. And so I did a workshop for Buenaventura last Saturday. It was a great day for a workshop. It rained, hard rain. Anyway, I was painting this. We were using if I can find it. Oh, here's the, I didn't pass this around. Here's the syringe bottle mountains. So I'll pass this around too, because I'm going to rip it off. So at that workshop, we were painting something like this. And it's already done in the shapes. It's already painted like the shapes that I want. It's already notonized or value study done. And so I started painting this, and I had to stop because it was so moist up there. But what I did was I painted these mountains with clear water, and then I just started dropping color in. But I'm kind of following that. So I painted those mountains with clear water again on the moisture clock, the watercolor clock. This was dry, the background, and this clear water held an edge. And of course, that got painted. And then while it was drying, these are going to be palm trees back here. It's going to be this kind of valley high kind of suggestion. So more defined trees are going to go on top of those. Anyway, I thought that was a fairly interesting start, because look at all the color through here from just using these shapes. Okay, is everybody kind of ready for a break? I'm going to put that over here. In fact, I'm just gonna take this off. Might find the edge. We go. Let that dry. So everybody needs, this is the same kind of, these are the pieces of mat board that I have. So. You're gonna need your X-Acto knife. I can cut some more, so don't worry about it.
Have you got a little board?
What?
A little board?
A little
A
board?
little piece of map board?
Oh, I gave you one. Right.
Oh, didn't see it, sorry.
No worries. So I'm gonna pass this around so you can feel it. Because that's what I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna gouge it.
Yeah, it goes to Joe now. Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to take my, and these are examples of, I think I already passed it around. Oh, okay.
Yeah, the old days. Yeah, well, anyway, I've got my reception to go to today, this afternoon. I'm not gonna spend much time because it's not good. Gallery and so on. Oh, the sun just came out, it rained finally. So, yeah, I've been waiting all day. And, then actually the spring of the plein air, right in the evening. I don't know where the beach is, I'll have to go find it. But, yeah, so, okay, if I have any questions, how do you
That's what we're doing. Yeah.
middle of the week?
Oh, that's what you're showing me?
Yeah.
You showed it. Yes.
Okay, so this is stamping, and these are stamps that we're gonna make. These are simple stamps. This is also in her book. And you can make weeds, you can make grass, you can make these little pine trees. You can do whatever. So that's one form of stamping. This is another form. This is using plastic wrap.
Okay. All right, well, I'm gonna run in because I'm
Which
making,
is,
talk to you later. Bye-bye.
it can you mute yourself unless you're asking a question, please.
Is that just a bag, Joe? I was on the phone, sorry. Is that just
Oh, no. It is what?
is it just a bag that you're cutting up?
Yeah, it just came wrapped in something, so I'm just giving it samples out here because I don't think anybody brought any.
Kind of looks like saran wrap when from here.
Yeah, it's not as sticky.
Okay,
I mean, it's it doesn't cling
Is it
quite
more
as
like
much.
cellophane?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. I find that that works better for me because it's not, you can control it a little bit better.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I usually don't throw this stuff away. I just squirrel it away. You know, you might find a place for the stamp on that first one that we did. But anyway, all I want to do is put this aside for a second. So I want to make a stamp. So I'm going to take my piece of matte board and I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm not going to cut it. I'm going to do just the opposite. I'm not going to do a cut. I'm going to do a gouge. So I'm gouging this. I'm actually scraping the blade along here and I'm making a trough, if you will.
Yes.
And it's going to be, it's see how rough it is. And that's going to hold the paint. It's like intaglio printing.
We're like scraping the stem of the tree,
Everything.
everything.
Yeah, kind of, sort of. Anyway, I'm just making a very simple shape here. Some kind of a pine tree looking thing. A little tree.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And you will experiment with this. So here's my little tree. I'm going to rub off all of the little pieces of paper, but there's my little,
Oh, that's your, okay.
there's my little tree. And you can do a lot of different shapes with this. I could have made a palm tree. I could have made a kind of a star. You can't get too clever with this, but that's kind of good enough. And then I'm just going to apply some paint. And I'm going to paint the whole thing. The first thing I want to do is the most important, is I want to take some tape. And I want to make a, I'm going to make a handle. Otherwise, you can't use it. There's no way to pick it up. So there's my handle. I can stamp this with. And then I'm just going to cover it with paint. In this case, I'll just use whatever is left on my palette. It shouldn't be too wet, but it's got to be wet enough to release. So there's some paint. Make it a little darker, and I'm just going to paint the whole thing. There, I painted the whole thing. And now I kind of have to blot it off to start with. So I'm just going to kind of lightly touch it. It's not too bad. So here's my little tree. And I can make a little forest using that. And then I can change the color of that tree. This is still wet. So I'm going to put some alizarin over the top of that and see what happens. So again, I'm blotting it a little bit. And now I can start making a little forest with those pine trees. And I can use this on top of my painting if I want to.
Why doesn't the outside print and where
It's
you?
intaglio printing. It's when they used to make printing plates, it was the paint went to the trough, if you will.
Sad.
I could take this and I could say, okay, I want a little texture right here. And there's a little texture right there and a little texture right there and a little texture over here. So you can see that now I can break this up a little bit just by using this stamp, and nobody's the wiser. And also what I can do is, I'm going to make, I'm going to paint, it's not too clean, but it won't make any difference. I'm gonna paint a wet spot here. And I'm gonna kind of let that settle. Just take some of this water off of here. And so while that's doing its thing, I'm gonna put some more paint on here. There we go. I'm gonna blot it. I'm gonna put some trees down here. And I want you to watch what happens when I put a tree up there. If this works, doesn't always work, but see how wet that is. I'm gonna blot this a little bit again. See how it starts filling in on itself as opposed to a tree, a positive tree. So see how that's turning negative. That'll turn negative and that'll be positive. And what I can also do with this, and it's good for rocks. Say I had a rock here, kind of a dark rock, but we'll see. There's a rock. I'm going to put some paint on this piece of mat board. And I'm going to use some of this. I'm going to use some of this. I'm going to use some of this. And I'm going to let that settle for a second. And that's kind of wet. So I'll just show you what happens when it's wet on dry. So I get that beautiful texture happening that I can't paint. So this is just nothing more than a monoprint. There. See if I put that on a rock, I can get all that texture happening. So that's a monoprint. So we could actually put that on this rock up here. I'm using this as my example. Well, it's not a very good example because none of it came off, but I'll just put a little bit. There, I blotted that.
Gouge a lot out.
Can't see what you're doing.
Off the gouge it out.
Oh,
Scrape it.
I did this and I put it on top of that rock. I did that
Assuming a lot.
to see what would happen. And it's hit and miss, so if I don't like it, I'm just going to take some water and get rid of it. Remember, it's not precious.
So you gouged it out,
It's not precious.
your monoprint thing, did you gouge it out?
No, it's just a monoprint.
It's not gouged out.
No,
This thing is so.
that
This
thing,
is
that
gouged.
thing is not a monoprint. That's a stamp.
Okay, the stamp you gouge out.
Yes. And here's my stamp that I gouged out. And this was just a flat piece of board. that I painted some paint, brushed some paint on, and then just made a monoprint, which looks like this. Or this. That's kind of cool, that color combo right there. You don't know what you're going to get, but that's part of the beauty of it. So that's a stamp, and that's a monoprint. They're both stamps, if you will. And the last one is if I took and I'll make a little green here like I did on this guy. This was the plastic. So if I make a little green, see if I can make a little green. There's a little green shape going on down into something, I don't know what. Anyway, if I wanted to see what I could do with that as far as a technique, I'm going to take a piece of this plastic. And again, this is another kind of monoprint, but I'm just crumpling it up.
So good.
I'm just crumpling it up and I'm making just some darker paint.
Now, there is something, you know.
I'll just add some red and blue to that. And there's my puddle of paint on the palette. And I'm just going to crumple it up like that. And I'm going to dip it in the paint. Look at the texture it's already making. So that's going to give me a unique looking texture that nobody can figure out how they did that unless you've already done it. So that's my plant in the pot. And of course, then I can always go back around the edges and add some real leaves. And it makes it look pretty convincing. I can do this more than once. As it's drying, I'm just going to take some dark and put it in here. Light's coming from up here. There's some dark. Pretty convincing. And you can add salt. You can do whatever you want to do. See that too. So there's a stamping. That's all kind of stamping. And there's monoprint stamping. Here's stencil stamping, if you will. Here's plastic, where I use plastic. And I can always go back into here. There's the lip. Here's some leaves. And you can make that appear pretty convincing. In just a few seconds. Actually, it's all about suggestion. So I kind of forced it on this guy, the stamping and the monoprint, but it adds a little bit. It adds a little bit to it. If you have a big background full of weeds and stuff like that, It really is helpful to know that technique because you don't want to paint all those weeds. But stamping it is pretty easy. I'll show you an example.
Have you ever made the stamps with styrofoam leaf trays?
I think you could make any stamp out of, yeah. I
It's
think you could
easy
make-
to indent into.
Yeah, anything that might have a texture. This is the most interesting part right here of how you can change that. You could have these negative trees go off into the distance. And I didn't show you what those were still wet. If I'd have turned it over and I'd have sprayed just this part, they would have all bled off into the fog sky part, kind of like this. So I've got more defined, darker ones up here and less so up there. So that's whether you're doing, you could be doing buildings, you could be doing a crane, you could be doing equipment, gravel, you know, just something that you need a repetitive pattern that you do not want to paint. Number one, it's tedious. Number two, it doesn't look believable because you're too much in control.
Says indented now?
I don't know. Try it. You don't know until you try these stamps, but you will learn what works and what doesn't work, like anything else, just by trying it. See all this stuff back here? That was a stamp. This was masked. That was just a stamp. I wouldn't want to have to actually paint that. And for those of you who have this book, it's on page 84. There's the monoprint stamp. So look, she's using it for the dock. All those barnacles and stuff. There's quite a bit of stamping in here with a white stamp. All these trees and this Alaska painting, all these.
How do you get it so the background's not printing and the what you dug out is?
Because you,
That's just part of the
no,
process.
because you have to tap it first.
Yeah, you blot
Someplace
it off.
else.
You
have to
blot it
blot
off and get
first.
rid of that background.
Oh,
Here's a bunch of grass that's stamped. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty believable, especially when you go random stamp it. Here's a bunch
What kind of a stamp is that for the grass?
She just made it, just like we did the pine tree. It's right here. It's right there. There's the grass stamp. It's just the cardboard, the mat board that's been scored.
This is your Christmas card next.
There's a stamp that made all that. It's just, she just made a grass pattern.
no.
And that's just crumpled paper, just like we just did. Anyway,
Oh, you had a Christmas.
84, 88 in this book. Highly recommend this book. Highly, highly.
Joe, can we get that online on Amazon?
Oh, yeah, it's $12.
Okay,
So cheap, it's ridiculous.
yeah.
Can you use those stamps to apply the masking fluid?
Sure. Why not? Of course, they have masking fluid in, what I would find interesting is this kind of stamp with masking fluid, the monoprint.
I can't. I'm tired.
I'm about done.
You've had it, huh?
Yeah.
You're
I'm
tired?
just-
No,
Yep.
no, no.
I'm just being messy now.
Oh, look at that. Oh, that's good. I'm off into the sunset. I like it connected to the bottom. Okay, the last thing are these guys. And I'll just show you quickly how I made these trees. And then you can figure out what else to use it for. That would be cool. So here's the tree. And here's a tree, and you can of course use any color you want, multiple colors if you want. So these trees painted themselves. I love this background. I love all this stuff that just happened. That's pretty cool. And you don't have to paint it like I paint it. I'm going to paint it both with this and a brush. And I have to anybody bring their oiler boilers from last time? You forgot yours. Yeah. Anyway, you can try this.
I don't have one.
You got one?
I do not have.
Oh, okay.
Got this.
So I'll just spray this first, and I'll just do this first, and then you can play. There's I've got a little bit of paint left in this one, and some brown left in that one. And so here we go. And I need my magic sprinkle bottle. I think I'm going to try 2 of these. I'm going to mix both of these together. So I'm not going to try to be too accurate here. Good Lord. I'm not going to try to be too accurate here. So I know there's going to be a tree. And I know there's going to be a limb and a limb and a limb. And let's make a limb there. And then I'm going to put the top back on without my glasses. Ta-da. I'm going to add a little bit of this just to see what happens. I haven't done this yet. If I can get the top off. Well, doesn't look like it's going to come off. Oh, shoot. There we go. So I'm going to put another limb using this color here and here and a little more in the trunk. So now I've got all these colors together, and it kind of looks like a tree, but I don't know. So now I'm going to take my sprinkle bottle, and I'm going to start painting. So that's going to make a tree for me.
That's pretty.
Well, that's not a bad tree. And now I'm going to use my brush, and I'm going to I'll just do this.
What I do is
I'm just going to go right through here and on down into my trunk and make a limb going that way, one going that way, one going up here. I don't know if I'm going to take some of that paint and just go on down through here. And that is pretty wet, but I'm going to try to, and it's too wet. So I'm going to do this because we have limited time. I'm going to take a paper towel. That's pretty cool the way it is though. I'm going to take a paper towel and sop a little bit of that up. And that way I got rid of a little bit of the atmosphere of that. But that way I can I can do this. And put a little grass in here. And maybe I love this little sprinkle right here. I had to use the paper towel because of time. But I'm going to add a little bit to that. I'm gonna let this go down a little bit more. I think you get the idea. If I had time, I would have waited a little bit longer. That helps shape that. That's a
Yeah.
little bit.
Take another piece of water paper and blot it with that, see what you get.
Unknown color.
No. Anyway, can you see how easily it is? You can do this. You have,
Design quality.
you have to,
You have a nice, this is a mess.
I'm gonna put a few little limbs in here.
My bottom.
Hi, Joe. It's Ursula. Can you do this with acrylic inks?
Sure.
Okay, I'll try that at some
Yeah,
stage.
why not? That would be cool.
All right, thanks.
Anyway, I can go back into here. I had to blot that, so I lost a little bit, but you can still see that you can get quite a few things going on in here. That's pretty cool. Anyway, does that make sense? Yeah. It's still pretty damp. It's still pretty wet, but I think you get the idea that you can do an instant tree. I love this little part right there. Anyways, that makes sense. So that's another way you can use your oiler boilers.
So after you drew it with the oiler broiler, oh, thank you. You just, I was.
Yeah, there you go.
And then you just take your wet brush and just kind of move
I
around?
sprayed it. I sprinkled first.
Oh, spray it now?
Yeah, I sprinkled first.
Sprinkle now.
Then that, yeah, that gives you the,
Oh, okay, I wasn't,
gives you
got it.
the mask. So you can see it blossom. It went from fall to spring,
Okay.
right?
And then you took the brush.
Yeah, then I took the brush. This is really cuddly right here. And I think that, of course, it would work better with,
Oh, yeah.
of course, it would work better if you had,
Pick a cup.
if this were drier paper. But still, I think you get the idea. There we go. That's my 2-color tree. And the bottles are back there. So again, this is let it dry, and then you can go back and you can put in some sky holes or whatever. But anyway, it can be used for more than the ocean. Right? Yeah.
Really fun.
And if you had a background to put in, if you had a major tree, you could do this, but you could also do this. Look at that lovely background of foliage. If you just narrowed in on that, just squirt that line and then sprinkle on it, and it all just blossoms.
Especially if you had like a large landscape, this
Yeah.
background.
Yeah, you could do this on a lot of different sizes. I need some a light hole right here, but it's too wet, but I'll do that later. So I'm taking what it gives me. That's not too bad looking tree.
You blotted those areas
It
together with
painted
your
it.
cellophane.
Yeah, it painted itself.
Here. Oh, thank you.
I just got it started. All these things paint themselves if you let it. Now, remember Nita Engle. I'm quoting a lot of Nita Engle and Joey Z today, but the biggest cause for failure is trying to do too much.
I learned it too. That's why I stay away from it.
Put that in your file. That's
It
good.
comes out fast.
Now look, I see shapes in
That's
there.
my
I
head.
just
Isn't
don't
that
see
good?
wallpaper, folks.
The lid is off.
You see what I'm saying?
Kind of.
Should have done this for your kids' class. Oh, look at that. Look at that.
It was a mistake, but that's okay.
There you go.
That's a nice tree. What's it for?
I will explain.
Here, I'll try
I'm,
that.
We're
I'm-
playing bingo.
I'm holding this up for them. This is what I use in my design class. And I started using it also in my watercolor class. This guy. I'll let that dry. So I put these in the cluster folder, just so you'd have it. So this is a good way to get you inspired and kind of out of the box a little bit. And I'm looking for one more sheet. Which I won't find. Here, I'll show you this so you get the idea. So I give them a shape. Ask yourself what each circle could represent. When you come up with the idea, draw in and around it, turn it into a recognizable symbol, set a timer 15 minutes. So we all started out with this, and then I came up with this. So it's everything that you think that looks like a circle. That's, of course, a button, an emoji, light at the end of the tunnel, a ball, piece of fruit, ball of string, measuring cup, drop. I think that was supposed to be a world, a bowling ball, a cupcake, an onion, splashing paint, a chocolate chip cookie, a baseball, and a ring. So you can't use any of those, of course, because I said them. Here's one that we just did. What does that do? Okay, for me, that was a domino. There's a cracker, dog tag, sandwich, off on switch, popsicle, fudgesicle, hourglass, shield, calculator, or a remote. That was a plug, HDMI plug, speakers, and that's your command key. And then I had to do it for the other class. So there's a paint palette. There's looking out an airplane window, a bug, a hockey rink, which is perfect, a bottle, TV dinner, a boat window, a tag, a sales tag, an aquarium. That's a chocolate. That's an LED bulb and a Band-Aid. So if you do that, then that's going to help your brain make connections. And there's tons of stuff. I've got taco, what looks like a taco. I've got here's the taco, the half circle. What's a half circle? There's my half circle. Of course, there's a taco in there, but there's a fan, there's a seashell, ice cream cone, blah, blah, blah. And you can connect the shapes. Somebody actually drew a horse out of these because they connected the circle shapes. So anyway, it's a nice little thing to just challenge yourself. And if you want to, I will put these in the debrief folder. They're squares. I'll put these in the debrief folder. Here's a teardrop.
Folder.
Anyway, if you want to put them with your friends, there's a teardrop. So I made 3 drops, splash, leaf, elf, added bug, pistachio, necklace, upside down. There's a balloon and a balloon. So on and so forth. Avocado, mouse, flames. Anyway.
Well, your imagination.
Football, Well, that's what it,
Yeah,
to me,
it's
that's what
like-
it helps with.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good exercise. It's just your fresh squeezed morning drink of creativity. So anyway, sprinkle it up on you.
So you're still teaching the kids,
Still teaching what?
the kids?
Yeah, it's we got 2 more weeks and then it's finals.
Right, where? Sprinkle.
Finals week.
Sprinkle. I wouldn't call them kids.
Kids?
I wouldn't call them kids.
To me, they're kids.
Well, they wouldn't like it. being
To me, a
called kids.
50-year-old is a kid.
Okay.
Yes, they're affectionately known as kids.
What age group?
They're
College.
college.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so this is starting to dry a little bit. I can pick this up and I can let that, look at how beautifully that's gonna run down there and make something out of that. I don't know what it is, but anyway, it's kind of cool. Here is the what we spent most of the time on today. I kind of like that.
Yeah, yours looks nice.
Kind of like the way that worked out, even with the stamp and whatnot. But anyway, it looks, it has a bunch of moving parts, but it's simple to me. I mean, it has a bunch of textures, but to me, it's still, oh, look at that beautiful color. Wow. Next time, a little less water, but that's
Yeah.
very good. And now you could squeegee, you could palette knife some,
Where's the picture?
you could palette knife some
I forgot.
branches.
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful.
Oh, good.
We're all motivated.
Oh, good. You're motivated. That's my job.
I'm all motivated. I'm gonna go see the big blooms and sit and start painting.
There you go. Yeah,
Thank
it's wildflower season. In
Yeah.
fact,
Did you
So-
see out
somebody-
there the red?
yeah, somebody planted wildflowers up there. They usually do, and then
They're poppies.
and then the school
Oh,
district comes by and hacks it all down. But
Oh, except that.
he saw that clump,
Oh, nice.
and I thought I caught him. Next time I see him, I'm going to say thank you.
Last year it was just a lot.
Yeah, they just stacked the whole thing last year.
Oh.
We're talking about the plot outside. There's a big this is a school and there's a big field outside. And somebody threw some wildflower seeds out. And they bloomed, and last year the guy came along and cut them all down, weed whacked them, but this year he kept them.
Ron. Send it to you. Yes, this is fun.
That's nice.
Huh, there we go.
I'm sorry.
Joe.
I'm sorry.
Hi,
Hi,
I'm back.
can I share my screen again?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is kind of a proof of concept, but I was just messing around with what you were showing us. Let's see.
Okay.
Do have.
Oh, look at that. See? Hey, look at that. That's pretty cool.
I like
Yeah,
it.
Hey, you know, you could do that, the Greek village, you know, the Greek architecture,
uh-huh.
that blue and white with all those, you know, that would be cool.
Yeah. So I didn't have mat board. But I have tons of mat board in the other room, and
Yeah.
so I found this black stuff, but it's very water repellent. So anyway, so I made the best of it. But anyway, so that it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and-
cool.
And if I would have spent more time, being more careful about the print,
Yeah.
what'd you call it?
Stamp.
Yeah. Imgargaloo, was it?
That's okay. Now you know how to do it.
Yeah, anyway, thanks. Yeah.
Okay, now you can do a whole series.
I know, right? I know. And I did this
Now
one.
you can start. Now you can start painting again.
I know. Well, this plein air group starts up in May, so that'll motivate me. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Ursula,
Ursula, did you get anything out of this?
Here, I took it, Bobby. My
Right.
bad. Okay.
And keep,
Yeah, just crumpled it up
in
and.
any color or?
Thanks, Cheryl.
Did that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Remove some.
See you next time.
I just.
Okay, anybody else want to show anything?
Could've made it
No,
on
I
that
don't want
tree.
to show anything, but I like the stamping.
You can post all this stuff on Cluster, so
Okay,
anyway.
I'll do that. Thank you very much. I
Okay.
enjoyed it. Are you going to have a
Wonderful.
verbal session?
Okay. Yeah, you won't get the recording until tomorrow because I'm gonna stop it right now.
Okay.
You won't get it